Hello, friends. So, here's another astral projection experience I had recently. And I'm sharing this experience because there's an important lesson for all of us here. And in a way, I feel a responsibility to share it considering the public work I do. And no doubt I was led to discovering this reality or experience because of what I do and being so public. As usual, I'll put images that are as close as I can find to the scenes of my experience just to encourage your imagination. So, this time the experience actually begins with me in a dream. I'm not very conscious at all. And in the dream, I'm walking in a sunny desert, which has like a few trees dotted around, and it's actually quite lush. And even though I was not very conscious, this was quite vivid because of the sun shining and the beautiful scenery. Now, as I was appreciating the scenery, I notice how beautiful the weather is, but also in the distance, I see the sky sort of split in half, and I see a huge, violent storm coming extremely quickly in my direction with like rain, sand. Lightning going through the clouds and just high speed winds all morphing coming together, coming after me. So it's all coming so fast and that I really have no time to get away from it. And so instead, I quickly go to one of these nearby trees and I hold onto it. And as the storm arrives, I get bombarded with gusts of wind and sand and rain, and I feel like there's probably a tornado or I'm in the middle of one. But at the same time, I get one of the most unique transitions from a dream into the astral that I've probably ever had. Usually you have a reality check, right? And then you maybe fly or just dissolve the dream. But this time, everything was uh, triggered by this storm. So, you know, the storm itself was like telling me to wake up. It somehow acts as a reality check for me. So my subconscious or inner being also feels this, it knows this. And so, as I suspect the absurdity of what's actually happening and it's a dream, and I start to realize this, I do the hold nose reality check. So, I hold my nostrils shut, try to breathe through them, and of course, I can. And so, I realize that I'm in a dream. Now, because of the intensity of what was happening, the power of the storm pushing me around caused an immediate heightening of energy, and my whole body started to vibrate into the here and now, into the pure astral. And I really felt like, that I didn't make this happen. I really felt that something within me, my divinity, helped me by sending that storm. And so, as I'm growing in my consciousness, I feel grateful to my inner God for helping me to become conscious, because I really sensed that it was helping me and it helped me. And I surely didn't make that storm happen, really. I was just in a regular unconscious dream. And just to add to the context as to why I experience what I do in this astral journey, is because these days I really do trust what I am shown. And I trust that, I am shown what I am meant to be shown. And I rarely try and find things out that my ego wants to find out. So I have a lot of trust in my experiences these days. And so, yeah. And so, with that knowledge, while I'm still holding on to this tree in the storm, my whole environment morphs and shifts, and I end up somewhere totally different. I'm actually in the middle of a city street. It wasn't a busy road, it was more like a quieter street, but still quite central, as the buildings were very tall and looked like, maybe I was in like a New York kind of place. So I was quite impressed with this new environment of where I was, and of course, excited to be conscious in the astral again, as usual. And interestingly, for a moment, I started to lose my self consciousness again, almost just for a bit. But I see from my own vision a dusty tornado start to form next to me. And that totally brought me back to this full awareness before I fell unconscious again. And yeah, I'm just sharing that because it was really impressive that this thing just keeps waking me up. Um, yeah, I just wanted to share that specific detail because it points out two things, really. That one, there was a force helping me, and that two, that it was sort of pushing me here to this street for a specific reason or mission, you could say. So, my inner being really wanted me to investigate what was going on here. I really felt that. And so, with a bigger sense of purpose, I look around for something interesting. I don't really see anything initially, so I ask a woman what's happening around here, and she says that everyone is going to that building over there. She has an American accent, and looking around more, I realize this place is connected to the US. So I go to the building she points to, where I see other people going inside as well. And just after the entrance, inside the ground floor of this building, I see a big group of people waiting in line, and like other groups dotted around. And they're all signing up their names in this sort of waiting room. Now, just before I continue, just a little disclaimer that I always do my best not to fearmonger, because truly fear itself is useless when we are trying to tackle these issues that I'm going to tackle in this video. So just remember that to submit yourself to the divine forces within you is all the protection you need. And to overcome ego is synonymous with protection from negative forces. So, really, when one integrates with consciousness in a true way, essentially it's that negative beings cannot even see you. You become invisible to them because you have transcended that level of being. Okay, so I just want to, keep that in mind for those who are more inclined to fear and conspiracy theories and things like that. Okay, so so with that in mind, let me continue and say that the people who were signing up in this room had to write their name down on a piece of paper. And then this guy would go to them and use this strange device, which looked like what we would use to scan products at a shop. But instead, he was shooting it into the left side of people's necks. And I could perceive that it wasn't a normal scan as we know it, but it was an energy scan. And it seemed to have left a sort of energy imprint in the aura of the people. People sort of flinched and cringed when this man, with a slightly odd smile, might I add, used this strange energy gun on them. And sometimes he would use it like 2 or 3 times if the person didn't like react properly to the device. So, yeah. So at the time of this experience, I had no idea what that was. But it was only after a few days of meditating on this experience did I, come to think I understand what that was now, which I'll explain a little later. So, of course, all of this felt a little off to me. So I come out of that crowded waiting room and I go round the rear end of the building, and I sneak into the back room where there is this large hall made for this sort of spiritual space where they do talks. In the middle of it, I see two Indian looking guys. One of them is a small and skinny man sat on this sort of throne, and next to him is this bigger, stronger man that looks like his henchman. I immediately sense their energy, which is dark and suspicious. And as I sense it, I stay very cautious and I do my best to conceal my own energy. And I sort of do that by acting like a regular person. And I also try to sort of energetically imitate or act like the group of people I just saw in the waiting room. So basically, I act clueless and naive, and I approach these two guys asking them some questions, and I start talking to the one who's sitting down, and the other man is just standing next to him this whole time. He's just looking at me intently. But I ignore him and I just ask this skinny guy, what is this place? He said, this is where we give spiritual teachings. Now, because I'm sensing all of this dark and malicious energy, I basically sort of, you could say, I energetically command the truth from him. I think that's the best way I can describe it. I just intended for him to tell me the truth, and that's it. It's not something I'd ever done before. It was totally instinctive. I didn't do this in an obvious way. It's just an energetic thing. I just tapped into the feeling of, tell me the truth. And which is a little easier to do in the astral because, it's quite easy, I think, because it's hard to conceal things in the astral there. The true colors of things and people can be seen quite easily when we intend to find the truth, right? So, yeah, I hope that makes sense. So, I used my force and I put my own energy into play to make him speak in the name of truth. Anyway, he then starts speaking to me more truthfully, and then I see his true colors. He has this sinister smile on his face as he says the following: the spiritual teachings we give here are simple. We give a sense of comfort to people who are looking to wake up. It keeps them asleep. Okay, these are his exact words. Okay, and he says this exactly next. I remember it very vividly. He says, it keeps them asleep because simplicity and comfort stop people from progressing. And what's better is that they are addicted to comfort and simplicity. And so they always want to come back. Okay, so I said all of that slowly to really emphasize the significance there of simplicity, keeping people asleep, and a sense of comfort. Right? So upon hearing all of this, it all really clicks with me, especially in understanding what is wrong and right spirituality, because the whole time, if you could have seen his face, it was just this sinister, evil smile of, I know what I'm doing and I'm winning, So, I'm really seeing the evilness of superficial or shallow or fake or pseudo-spirituality, right? Of course, I already knew this somewhat and have spoken about it a little on this channel, but here in this experience, I was really seeing how malevolent people manipulate teachings in this way and how evil these people are to wish and intend for people to remain asleep, And I also saw how clever he was. You know, these people aren't to be, like taken lightly. He's talented, right? He has a talent. It's an evil talent, and he has a sharp intellect. He was precise. He knew exactly what he was doing to be able to see these weaknesses, these holes in people's psyches, and then, manipulate them. Anyway, right after he finishes explaining this, the other man immediately goes to this skinny man and says to him while pointing at me, he's a white magician. So the skinny man looks a little shocked and angry at me, and then they both start to run at me, and I immediately do the mantra Helion Melion Tetragrammaton, which always protects me in these situations. I've taught this mantra before, this mantra of protection. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to listen to that video again. And to add to that little protection practice, I usually do this mantra in combination with a hand movement. So I put my left hand on my stomach and my right hand in the shape you see on the screen, which is actually a secret sign of the White Lodge, which I'll speak a little bit about in a second. But anyway, while I do that, while I have my hand like this and mentally pronouncing the mantra, you can also say the mantra out loud if you want. And while I do that, I just have faith in the mantra and have faith in divinity that I will be protected. And I just do it and continue doing it powerfully until I am protected. And in this case, I quickly vanished from that scene and entered a void for a few seconds, just like a black space void. And then I woke up in my bed in the physical and wrote this journal entry down with what I learned. So I was going to name this video Infiltrating a False School, but through this experience, my inner being, my intuition was saying that this is the Black Lodge, or essentially what is connected to it or is working alongside it. So, what is the Black Lodge? Well, first, it's also important to understand that there is the White Lodge. Remember that they called me a white magician, and obviously they are black magicians. So there are also grey magicians as well, but I'm going to talk on a future video on what all that really means. In the meantime, the White Lodge is also known as the Universal Gnostic Brotherhood of the White Lodge. You could call it that, or also the White Fraternity. This is where all the highest ascended masters, the highest ones, reside. Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, archangels, and many, many others. They are the highest hierarchy of light who work tirelessly to awaken humanity, to give us the real light, the real path, the truth that is not based in simplicity and comfort, but in intelligence and willpower. So, in an inverted way, there are those who work in the opposite way to keep humanity asleep. They are malevolent, malicious, evil. Usually, I prefer not to give these things too much emphasis because of how people react fearfully, but since I had this experience and as someone with quite a lot of viewers, I feel the responsibility to, just tell you this in the name of truth again, right? That these things exist. And at first, it can be surprising to hear this. Maybe you have some egoic reactions, but as you advance, you also realize it's not surprising at all, that that we are easily manipulated on a mass level, especially when you consider the world that we live in, which is in darkness. Where do you think that darkness comes from? Does it come from the light? Of course not. So, yeah. So, don't take this fearfully, okay? Really, frankly, they are not the problem, I would say. The problem is us, right? We, the people, because we have ego, right? And so if we are reacting fearfully to all of this and have all sorts of voices inside of us speaking to us right now, making us feel fearful, doubtful, confused, well, just don't think in this kind of fearful way, Don't be fearful. Don't lack faith in your divinity, in your inner being, in your sense of God, in that which you sense inside your heart is correct, upright, good, just. Fear is useless. It is a waste of energy. Fear is ego. Okay, fear turns you into a simpleton, like these people want you to be. And then, if you do not overcome fear, you will eventually look to pseudo-spirituality for a sense of comfort. And there you go again, right? Trapped in a cozy cave, not really going anywhere. And then maybe one day you get the genuine calling to find the truth, to find the real light, but then you think it's too hard. And then again, you go back to these pseudo spirituality teachings that make you feel good, right? So what's an example of a simple teaching? Well, things like all you have to do is love yourself and everything will be okay, right? That's a common thing in spiritual communities. All you have to do is love yourself. I mean, that's the most narcissistic thing that we can do, right? So, I'm not giving an absolute meaning to that. I'm just saying that there is a certain narcissistic way that people subconsciously interpret that. Obviously, we need love, right? And we should love ourselves in a divine way. But when it's given in the context of just, you should love yourself, I mean, that's not helpful. We have to really understand what it means to have love within ourselves. Like, what are you loving? Are you loving ego, or are you loving not yourself, but the divinity within yourself? How do you discern between that, right? So again, here you can start to see the distinctions between real spirituality and pseudo spirituality. So yes, anyway, as I was saying, do not be fearful. There is a saying in the Gnostic teachings that heaven is taken by force and only the courageous ones have it. So be courageous. Don't look for comfort. Don't look for security. God is not found in the comforts of life, but it's found through courage and you making choices that get you out of your comfort zone and in situations that force you to sift through your own dirt and muck of ego in order to fight your egos and demons within you along the way, So, of course, with love as well. But yes, as Buddha said, the only battle that ever matters is the battle with ourselves. So, one thing these black magicians in the astral do is that they make people become obsessed with fixed ideas, which are just mere ideas, right? And so the victims of these people just become ideologues. They just become possessed by ideologies instead of actually gaining knowledge from direct experience. And so in their delusion, they start to, start to defend the idea, right? Because they have a sense of self from it. And of course, a lot of these beliefs and ideas include also deluding people into believing that they are waking up. And it also can include promises of a better future based on love and money and sex and leisure and things like that. And then they reinforce these ideas and beliefs by also manipulating them to make them the enemies of other people. So, they'll try and put them in situations or say they have to go out and tell people about their belief and tell them that they are wrong. We see that a lot, I think, with especially with certain religious cults, you could say. So I hope most of you are following here. I know most people don't understand how the astral plane works, and maybe you're asking, does this really affect me? How does this, affect my reality and everything? It really does affect almost everything, because this type of, to speak in an esoteric fashion, this type of black magic is embedded deeply into our subconscious minds, into our astral bodies, right? Remember, we all have this unconscious astral body that can be manipulated. And so, this isn't something that you need to just, you can only confirm at night when you sleep, but it's something that you can reflect on during your waking life, and just you can observe the way that you think and how other people think and how they become obsessed with ideas in a very strange and passionate way. So yeah, I hope everyone's following. Anyway, let me continue. To go back to the energy gun that they were using on people's necks before spiritual talks, I believe that that was used to make people more psychically susceptible, into making them obsessed with the ideas that they fed them. That's what I think, anyway. And to give a sort of real life example of this kind of thinking, this simplistic thinking, I'm reminded of an angry comment I got here on YouTube recently on one of my videos on the chakra series. I won't name any names, of course. This person commented and said, all of these practices and talking is just pointless and stupid. All you need to do is go to the gym and work out until you're really exhausted, and then Kundalini will awaken. He literally said, it's as simple as that, everyone. Don't listen to this guy. So, obviously, this person is possessed by this kind of black magic type of thinking. Okay, so the kind of thinking that keeps you into a simpleton, that stays in ignorance of the real work required, of the real purpose and journey of your life. Do you really think that after 1,000 years of accumulating energetic karma and mistakes from past lives, that the solution is just simple and requires no effort at all? Don't be tempted by these thoughts that you experience. They do not come from divinity. They come from our own ignorance, laziness, and desire for comfort. And in their root, in the astral, I saw that they come from what we call in esoteric studies from the Black Lodge, those who enjoy to keep humanity asleep and hypnotized and manipulated. Okay, so, and paradoxically, you can be a simpleton and interpret the lesson of this video as, okay, all simple teachings are bad. No, I'm not saying that. As I will always say, be intelligent. You need to use meditation to extract deeper meanings out of things, instead of letting the ego interpret things for you, and interpret things in a very simple manner. So, for example, if a spiritual teacher says, you are light, yes, that is true. But are you going to take from that you are just light and that's it? What kind of light? Dark light or white light? What does being light actually imply? What is light, etc.? Another thing that people interpret very simply is, I think, another thing like this, which is, we all go back to the light when we die, or we all go back to source. I mean, well, what a nice thought that would be, right? I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm saying look at the way the ego can comfortably interpret that to say, well, if we all just go back to source, then it doesn't matter what I do in this life. I don't need to do any spiritual efforts. Everything's perfect and fine, right? So next time you're reading challenging spiritual things, observe, self observe how the mind wants to only simplify things. And if it's not simple, we look away because we have one of the seven sins, laziness, or we rebel because we have anger, or we crave only simple teachings because we have a lot of lust for spiritual power. And these dark beings know that. But remember, these beings wouldn't exist if it wasn't for us. So, primarily, I think in order to enlighten ourselves about this, we also have to realize that they are a reflection of the evil and ignorance that is already within us, right? They would not do what they do if we weren't so stupid, would they? Right? Evil needs a receiver to perpetuate. So we receive and therefore we perpetuate that evil. Of course, we receive it unconsciously, but hey, it's time to wake up. It's time to take responsibility, and we have to realize these things in order to transcend them. So, what I want to emphasize is that it is not so much the teachings that you are reading or studying, but the spirit in which you comprehend them, the spirit in which you study them. For example, if I say to you, you are infinite consciousness with all the power you need, then you can either, one, feel sentimental about that and get a sort of prideful sense of self from that, or two, you can listen to that intelligently to further deepen your inner journey, asking yourself deeply what that really means. So one thing you'll notice about cults is that you're generally not welcome to criticize or question any teachings, right? And that's a vital part of finding the real journey of your inner path of your own gnosis, right? In order to find that knowledge, we have to question, we have to criticize, and we have to intelligently self-inquire and use critical thinking. As another example, if I say God is love, I mean, do you really think you can comprehend God or love just like that? So, this is what the evil forces want us to do. They want to push you to feeling like you have a sense of knowing with just these little nice feelings and words that they give you, that give you a false sense of knowledge, which is not based on your own experience or your own truth for you to discover for yourself. It's just indoctrination without any investigation. Brainwashing, basically. And like that skinny man said to me, it stops your progress. Because you see, if you think you know what God is, if you think you know it all, or worse, if you think you are God itself and all powerful, well then, you've put a full stop on your spiritual journey, right? You learn nothing more because, unbeknownst to yourself, you've made it, right? Done, finished. What else is there for you to do? What's there left to do? Meditate, self-inquire, pray? No. Why should you? Because God already loves you. You already have all the things you need. All you need to do is relax and do nothing because you are perfect and divine and beautiful. So, what a load of nonsense. If you value anything on this channel, value this, which is do not listen to these voices inside you, which want to give you a false sense of perfection. Seek reality. Seek the truth, which is not based on pride or developing any other kind of false sense of self. The real path will only ever show you the reality, and that's it. What else is there left to do after receiving simplistic, comforting teachings that give you a false sense of self? All that's left for you to do is show and tell to others how perfect you are, and this just boosts your pride more and more. So, this is why false teachers and fake gurus want more followers all the time, and they want them to be loyal to them, and they want them to follow and worship them because they get energy from that. They get a certain type of prideful energy, and they keep using their sort of hypnotic powers to feel like a ruler and a king, and maybe even call themselves the next incarnation of Christ or something like that. Or maybe the next incarnation of Buddha too. There's a lot of fake gurus like that, especially in India, and not just to talk about India, but in the West as well. For example, there's a lot of people who are on the streets, right? And they say things like, all you have to do is seek Christ's forgiveness and you will be saved because he died for our sins. Therefore, you don't have to do anything. Just believe and you will be saved from the rapture that is to come. So you can see how the Antichrist works within the schools of Christianity as well. Do you really think that just because you believe in Jesus Christ, our Savior, that you automatically become saved like that? No, that does not take away the reality of who you are. And the reality of who you are is not rainbows and butterflies. We have ego. And the only way to get out of our darkness is by the death of the ego. The only reason we are manipulated so easily is because of ego. And any one of you who has genuinely worked on dissolving the ego knows it is not easy, it is not simple, and it is not a comforting thing to do, right? So we have to be willing to put ourselves on our internal cross, just as Jesus did, and not just merely believe in him. There is no other way to understand Christ or Christ consciousness other than to live and integrate it just as Jesus and many other masters did. Okay, so I'll leave it there. Bit of a fiery episode today. I hope you enjoyed it. I've got some really crucial episodes coming up in the next weeks that I hope you enjoy too. So yes, give the video a like, subscribe if you are not already, and see you next time.